Chris Voss Show.com. Be sure to check back daily because I post fairly often, usually every day. And want to talk to you here about some different stuff that's been going on. There's been a lot of discussion lately about RSS feeders. And is RSS feed still even necessary? Loic and Robert Scoble, Loic of CSMIC, of course, got into a discussion about it. Robert Scoble, of course, saying that they're obsolete. And Loic saying that no, with the new Mashables, they probably have more relevance. I would tend to agree with Loic. Up until recently, I haven't been using RSS feeds, and I really don't waste my time with them. But with the iPad, the tablets, and different sources of mashups for news compilation, they're coming out with the iPad, and some of the revolutionary ways they have of streaming that data to us. I've started using RSS feeds with these things that I'm going to be showing you here in a second. So I really found incredible use for them in being able to get them to the news areas that I want to take and visualize and use with my iPad. And I would imagine this is really going to continue to change the form of news reading and news readership in the future, as you're seeing a lot of magazines, of course, format themselves to the iPad. But let's talk about two here. Now, there is Flipboard in the early edition that create iPad RSS feed compilations that are kind of more based in looking like a newspaper. So we'll discuss those on a separate blog post and compare those two. So you can check that out for the Chris Voss Show if you do a search. We're going to be talking about two what I would call visual RSS feed news source compilation apps. Okay, one is called Pulse and the other is called Flood. So we'll take a look at Pulse here first. Now Pulse is my favorite. And Pulse is pretty great. As you can see, these are different news feeds. We've got one for TechCrunch, we've got one for All Things Digital, and they, of course, go down the row. Now, with Pulse, evidently you can only put about 20 or 21 different feeds in here. Hopefully they change that because I like having more information and data. Now, what's really cool is you just take and you can visually see what you want to do or what articles are on their blog or website from their RSS feed. Now, I'm a very visual person, so I really like this experience more. I've been wasting a lot of time going to 5 to 10 websites daily, reading blog posts daily, coming into my email and filling my email box. I've been able to save a ton of emails and quit having them sent to me by putting them into my RSS feed with Pulse, and also be able to skip all the reading that I do of websites where I'm having to look at a bunch of stupid articles I don't want to see and advertisements, of course. So now I can quickly just swipe through the articles that have been posted for the most recent 24 hours, I believe, on their RSS feed and determine which ones I want to read. And if I want to read them, I can go ahead and I can click on one. It'll pull up a sidebar where I can see the information almost as it looks on their website on the web. Now, if I want to take this, of course, up to the web, you can see here I can move from text to web, and if I press that button, that will move this to the Safari element, and we can see what that looks like there. It's kind of skippy with both Pulse and Flood on getting video in. I actually had a much better time with the early edition at watching videos and getting feed in for stuff. Even Flipboard seemed to be a little bit more slower. Now, the one thing I do like about this is I can save information to Instapaper. Now I can, of course, send this to Facebook, Twitter, email, and Instapaper. One of the problems I have with Flood is I don't have the ability to send to Instapaper. Now I'm a big Instapaper fan, especially with the advent of iPad, so I really like having stuff on Instapaper where it saves it later for me to read. Now, the other thing that's really neat about Pulse over Flood is that if you see this little button right here, this button actually puts us back and into the stream of news. Now, this button up here also does the same thing. On Flood, they don't have that. So what it does is when I'm reading the thing, it makes it very easy for me to use my left or my right finger to go ahead and close out an article and go back to the stream. It makes it very easy. I don't have to go up here and hunt. So I like that feature very much that's on Pulse as opposed to Flood. Now, Pulse will charge you at this time $4.99. the Flood program is $2.99, so it's a little bit cheaper. One thing that's also really cool that I like about the Pulse program is down here you can of course expand your text in some cases, but there's a little heart thing that you can take and click on. And when you click on the heart thing, you can actually create favorites that you would take and want to take and have on your Pulse, but you can also share them so people can come see what your Pulse is. And I guess they have a login and a database system they set up. So at this point, it becomes very social media, in the fact that you can have people follow your Pulse and articles that you have. One thing that Flood does have is they do have a similar favoriting, but they don't have one that broadcasts your Pulse at this time. So it's very cool that way. So I really like the Pulse features much better. One of the things that was limiting for Pulse for me is it only holds 21 RSS feeds, and it's very easy to put the RSS feeds in. It comes with some featured RSS feeds. It also works with Google Reader. It'll pull your RSS feeds that you have in Google Reader, which is really nice. You just put your RSS feeds in Google Reader, and it'll go right to them. And like I said, this is saving me a ton of time that I would normally spend in the morning reading different papers, etc., etc. Now, if you'll notice, there's about 5.5 articles that fit across the screen. Now, this is important when we're going to go ahead and show you Flood. So we'll take a look at Flood at this time. And with Flood, you'll notice it only fits about 4 articles on the screen, where with Pulse it's 4.5. I'm not sure if the pictures are really bigger, or maybe the data's better. It's a personal preference thing. I'm sure everyone's going to have different things. One thing I don't like about Flood, and I really do like Flood, is this Flood feed I cannot remove. I'm stuck putting up with their feed. Now, I did pay $2.99 for the products I paid for, and I should be able to do what I want with it, I would think. But maybe since it's $2 cheaper, I have to put up with it. You do have a favorites button, of course, right here, where you can favorite articles you want to maybe take and read later. It does not go to Instapaper, which is hopefully something they'll fix in the future. Now, they do hold more feeds than Pulse, so I was pretty impressed with that. You can see in this case it's pulling in an article. We're not getting the full article based on the RSS feed. Here's one that gives us a little bit more data on the article. Now, with this article up here, you can go in, you can take and love it. You can love it, email it, or Facebook tweet it. I don't think that's going to come in for us, but so you can still email, tweet, and Facebook just like you can in Pulse. So it works the same way pretty much. If you need to do a web view, you can hit web view, and that will go ahead and open in Safari for you. Now, the one difference that is kind of interesting with Pulse, and I apologize for doing the Blair Witch Project here on you, but if you can see across the top, it'll categorize your RSS feeds by different categories. So you've got technology, creative, world, politics, business, science, lifestyle, entertainment, sports. So what you can do that you can't do in Pulse is you can actually put in your RSS feeds will be in categories where you can just look at the RSS feeds maybe that you want to focus in at the time that you want to focus in on them. So it's very nice and very interesting that way. I believe you can control which, in this case, you can see I don't have any RSS feeds for my click this icon, so if you click it, you can install whatever RSS feeds you want for it. I do like Flood, but I also like Pulse better. I can see more articles on the screen. I can get through more data very quickly. I'm a very visual person, and so these two programs appeal to me a whole lot more. Maybe if you're a person who appeals to reading or more kineticism, you know the word I'm looking for here. You might enjoy Flipboard or the early edition much more. Although it's not very kinetic because you can't really touch it, it's still very virtual on the iPad. So these are revolutionizing the way that I'm saving time. I cut out a ton of emails and put them on my RSS feed, or I cut out a ton of the websites I was going to every day, paging through 2 or 3 pages of data to see what I thought was relevant. I can quickly go through this. What's really neat is I can go through this in my bed at morning and have so much of my what I call my stupid waste time work, which is, answering emails or seeing what's on email, seeing what's on Twitter, Facebook, and catching up with all of my social media environment. And I can do it all right from my bed with my iPad. Thanks for coming by the chrisvossshow.com. Be sure to check those out. And my other posts that I'll be doing on the early edition and Flipboard iPad apps. You can check that out on the chrisvossshow.com. Bye-bye.